Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the fire hose of information and turn it into actionable insight, custom tailored just for you. Thank you for tuning in today. $40 billion, over 200 Rafales, and a 50 squadron shield that is rewriting the rules of air combat in Asia. This isn't just a purchase, it's China's ultimate nightmare. While the world was watching, India just made a move that ends air parity in the Indo-Pacific. After the crushing success of Operation Sindoor in 2025, the IAF is doubling down to ensure they never lose the edge again. The balance of power is shifting fast. If you want to stay ahead of the most critical defense updates in Asia, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Like this video to boost the reach and share it with anyone who needs to know the truth about India's air power. From a global production hub in Nagpur to the most advanced F-4 electronics on the planet, India is no longer just a buyer. Is this the moment India secures its skies for the next 30 years? Let's break down the $40 billion deal that changed everything.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. This whole deep dive is all about the new India-France mega agreement.
We're talking, what, another 114 Rafales?
That's the proposal. And it would boost the total fleet to well over 200 aircraft.
A number that completely changes the strategic math.
It absolutely does. I mean, the sheer scale of this commitment is staggering. You're looking at a deal worth somewhere between, say, 36 to 40 billion US dollars.
Which is what in Indian currency?
Roughly 3.25 lakh crore. Once this is finalized, India instantly becomes the world's second largest Rafale operator.
Just behind France itself.
Just behind France. So this isn't just a purchase. It's a long-term structural commitment to a single platform.
And it kind of makes you look back, doesn't it? We have a source, a former three-star officer, who pointed out the irony here.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "It is remarkable how the story of the procurement seems to go back to its original point. We are again acquiring almost the same number of Rafales, but at a much higher cost."
He's not wrong. It does raise the question of operational urgency. Why now? Why this platform and at this price?
So what's the answer?
The answer is a critical, decades-in-the-making shortfall in numbers. The Indian Air Force is currently operating with only about 29 to 30 fighter squadrons.
Which is, I mean, that's way below what they need.
Way below. The official allowable strength is 42. But their actual planning target for what they need to fight effectively is 50 squadrons.
So they're short almost 20 squadrons. That's huge.
It's strategically unsustainable, especially when you look at the neighborhood. China operates over 2,300 fighter aircraft.
Including their J-20s.
Including the J-20 stealth platforms. And then to the west, Pakistan maintains a very robust 24-25 squadrons, with their JF-17 Block 3 coming online.
So this push for 50 squadrons, it isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's about a concept you mentioned before we started, force generation.
Exactly. Force generation. It's the ability to sustain combat. See, if you only have 30 squadrons, maybe you can handle a short, sharp conflict.
A quick burst.
Right. But continuous force generation means having the reserves, the maintenance crews, the rotation capacity, everything you need to keep high-intensity operations going for weeks, maybe months.
On two fronts at the same time.
Simultaneously. On the Western Front with Pakistan and the Northern Front with China. The Rafale is designed to be that critical middle-tier backbone that lets them do that.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because the Rafale, for years, it was this politically toxic project, right? The whole MMRCA controversy.
A decade-long saga. Yeah.
Yeah.
It started way back in 2007.
But then something happened that shifted it from a political headache to a strategic pillar. And that was Operation Sindoor in May 2025.
That operation was the ultimate combat proof. It was a complete game changer.
Tell us about that. What exactly happened?
Well, the reports we have detail how the Rafales were used for deep precision strikes. We're talking 16 to 22 different targets deep inside adversary territory.
And the primary targets were air defense systems.
Specifically, Chinese-made air defense systems.
Yeah.
The ones that pose the biggest threat. And what made it so successful wasn't just the bombs. It was the platform's own brain, the Spectra electronic warfare system.
Right, Spectra. It's more than just a jammer.
Much more. It actively maps, identifies, and neutralizes electronic threats. It basically created a stealthy corridor for the Rafales to fly through, conduct their strikes, and get out.
And the most incredible part of that story.
Not a single aircraft lost.
Not one. In an operation that deep and that risky.
And that's what proves the system's value. It forced a rapid de-escalation because it demonstrated a level of air dominance that changed the entire risk calculus for the other side.
And we saw the reaction, didn't we? China's reaction after the fact was very telling.
Oh, absolutely. The post-conflict analysis documented a very swift and very specific disinformation campaign launched by China. They were trying to push stories about Rafale losses that just never happened.
When your adversary has to invent stories about your hardware failing, you know you've hit a nerve.
It's the ultimate confirmation. The platform is fundamentally disrupting their military planning.
Which brings us to the big picture, the geostrategic implications. With over 200 of these jets, this idea of two-field deterrence, it stops being a theory.
It becomes a hard operational reality. Before, in a two-front war, the IAF would be stretched thin almost immediately. They'd have to make tough choices about where to put their best assets.
But now they have coverage.
Now they have the critical mass to maintain a high tempo on both fronts at the same time.
Let's get into the tech, though. What specifically makes the Rafale F4, the newer ones, so effective against something like a Chinese J-20?
It's the philosophy behind it. The Rafale is built from the ground up to be a network-based fighter that's incredibly resistant to jamming. It excels at creating its own sort of bubble of air combat space.
And the F4 standard takes that even further.
To a whole new level. You're talking full network-based warfare, better satellite connectivity, and this is the key, AI-based data integration.
Okay, AI-based data integration. That sounds impressive, but what does that actually mean for the pilot in the cockpit?
It means survival. In a chaotic dogfight, the pilot isn't trying to process a dozen different sensor feeds at once, radar, infrared, data links. The AI fuses all that data instantly and presents a single, clear, prioritized picture of the threats.
It cuts down the cognitive load.
Massively. So the pilot can focus on tactics, not on managing the systems. That's a life or death advantage.
And this choice going with a French platform, it has huge geopolitical ripple effects too. It really cements that India-France strategic alignment.
That's a crucial point. It gives India a reliable, high-end Western jet, but without the political strings that can sometimes come with, say, U.S. systems.
And it moves them away from over-reliance on Russia.
A huge diversification. It insulates them from the risk of things like TATSA sanctions from the U.S. for buying Russian gear. The Rafale really was the perfect strategic compromise. It filled an immediate need for capability while preserving long-term autonomy.
Okay, so we've covered the why and the what, but true autonomy, that's not just about buying jets. It's about building them.
Right. And this deal has a massive industrial component.
We're talking 30 to 60% local content phased in over time.
This is where the real long-term value is. It's not just an import deal. It's about building an entire aerospace ecosystem in India. The final assembly line is expected to be at the Dassault Reliance facility in Nagpur.
And they're planning a pretty significant output.
Up to 24 aircraft per year. That kind of capacity could position India as a global production hub for the Rafale, maybe even for exports down the line.
And what about keeping them in the air? Maintenance?
A huge maintenance, repair, and overhaul and MRO facility is planned for Hyderabad, supposed to be operational by late 2026. This is essential for keeping a fleet of 200-plus jets ready for a high-intensity conflict.
So the big takeaway is that India is trying to shift from being just a buyer to an integrated defense value chain manager.
That's the goal. And that local production capacity gives you what we mentioned earlier, surge capacity.
Meaning in a crisis, you're not waiting on a delivery from France.
Exactly. You can ramp up your own production line to replace losses. That local capability becomes a genuine instrument of national power.
But this all brings us to the final and maybe the toughest challenge, the irreversible choice.
Yes.
This huge Rafale buy, it's a bridge. It covers the delays in their own domestic programs like the Tejas Mk2 and the AMCA.
The AMCA being their own fifth-generation stealth fighter project.
Right. But critics worry that a $40 billion foreign purchase could end up starting those domestic programs of funds and focus.
It's a valid concern, and it leads to this concept of path dependency. The decision to build your Air Force around 200 Rafales.
Yeah.
That's now irreversible.
Explain that for our listener. What does path dependency really mean here?
It means you've locked yourself in. Once you invest billions in the training, the infrastructure, the logistics, the specialized tools, all unique to the Rafale, switching to another jet becomes almost impossibly expensive and disruptive.
You'd have to rebuild that whole ecosystem from scratch.
You're committed to the French ecosystem for the next 30, maybe 40 years. And the final test, the real challenge for India, is to make sure the Rafale fleet acts as a catalyst for their local industry, not a crutch.
So the operational shield it provides has to be used to foster their own programs, like the AMCA.
Precisely. The money, the technology, the expertise from this deal has to flow into those domestic efforts, not away from them. So the final thought for you to consider is this. The true measure of success for this deal isn't just the number of jets India gets. It's about whether this massive $40 billion investment becomes the foundation for true, sustainable, indigenous capability, or if it becomes a golden cage. That's the question that will define Indian air power for the next generation. Thank you for tuning in for this deep dive into the Rafale mega deal and its profound implications for regional air power. Thank you for listening or watching, and we invite you to check out our other deep dives available wherever you find your podcasts.
If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast for more in-depth analysis on topics that shape our world. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next episode.